Okay, so now that we know a little bit about how adjectives work in Latin, we're going to move on to how nouns and adjectives work together. So, in Latin and English and all different languages, adjectives are put with nouns to give more information, to describe a noun, to provide more detail. So, you all have been doing this in Latin for quite some time in terms of translating, but I'm going to show you how to actually do that from scratch, especially now that we have a lot of endings, we have a lot of declensions, and a lot of endings are starting to look similar to other endings, so we need to really analyze and figure out the difference between the two, especially when we're translating. So the first thing we're going to look at is the adjective that we're using on this particular page. You can see the word bank. It has the same word over and over again. It just has a bunch of different forms of the same word. So in yellow here you will see bonus AUM. That is the adjective that we're using on this particular page. And based on what we know about adjectives, we know that this is a 1-2. It has the US AUM. That indicates to us that it's a 1-2. So what that means is that this adjective, everything in these boxes is going to have a 1-2 ending on it, okay? And you might remember me saying before that just because our adjective is 1-2, that doesn't mean that all of our nouns are 1-2. You can put any noun with any adjective. If you have the adjective red, you can match that with any noun. We're going to be worrying about G and C, gender, number, and case. Those are the three pieces of information that we need to make sure match between the noun and the adjective in order to make sure that it grammatically works. So I'm going to run through the process of showing you how to do this GNC process, and I'm going to do a couple examples with you, and then you're going to do the rest. So if I squeeze in here, all right, so we're going to start with animos. The first thing I want to do is I want to focus on that GNC again. Remember, GNC, super important. So the first thing I want to do is I want to look at this noun. We're going to do animos. I want to figure out what's the gender of animos. You might need to look it up. Remember, you have Quizlet, you have an online dictionary that you can use to be looking things up. We want to look up the gender of that word. Just for the sake of time, I'm just going to do this one for you. This word is masculine, so I'm just going to write that right there. The next thing we want to do is figure out the number. Is this word animos singular or plural based on how it is written? If you have your chart out in front of you, which is a very good idea to do, you would be able to tell that this ending is a plural ending. And the next thing we need to do is we need to figure out the case. So you do need to know the declension in order to figure out the case. You'll notice that GNC, it doesn't say anything about declension. Okay? We're not really, I don't need you to write down the declension number, but you do need to know it, because if you don't know the declension, you're not going to know that this animos word is plural, and you're not going to know that it's accusative. So you do need to look the word up. You do need to figure out the declension in order to figure out the case and the number. I'm not going to make you write it down unless you want to. We could put a little 2 beside this, and then we know that it's second declension. But the 3 big pieces of information that I need you to write down is the gender, number, case. So we just figured out the gender, number, case of animos: masculine, accusative, and plural. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at this word bank, and we're going to figure out where is the masculine, accusative, plural version of the word for good. Okay? And if you remember that bonus, we said that bonus is a 1-2. Okay? So when we reviewed this before, 1 goes with the feminine, and then 2 goes with both the masculine and the neuter. Okay? So because our word animos is masculine, that means that we're working with second declension endings. Now, we already decided that this word animos was second declension. So because bonus can be second endings and animos is second endings, guess what, guys? They're going to have the same endings, okay? So let me say that again. Because I know that bonus can be second declension, because it's a 1-2, 1 means feminine, 2 means masculine or neuter, and we've determined that animos is second declension as well, the adjective should have the exact same ending. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to look for an adjective that has the OS ending, Boom, I found it, we have it, and I'm gonna write bonus beside it. We just completed our first noun adjective agreement. We looked and we analyzed the noun. We figured out the GNC information about the noun. And then we found the adjective that has the same GNC, which just so happened to have the exact same ending on it. Now I'm going to do one with you that's a little bit harder. Number 2, arboreus. Okay, so let's get our information about arboreus the same way we did with animos. We want the gender. If you look this word up, you're going to find that it's feminine. We want the number. Based on the endings, I can tell that that's going to be plural. And then we need the case. Remember that I don't need you to write down the declension, but you do need to know the declension so you can figure out the case correctly. So I'm just going to put a little 3 out here to the side because I know that that word is third declension. And remember, I'm doing examples. I know these off the top of my head. You're probably going to have to look these things up. So whenever I'm thinking about third declension and I'm looking at this word arboreus, I can tell by looking at my endings chart that this word could either be nominative plural or accusative plural. Either way, it's plural, okay? So what that means is when we start to figure out the adjective, because there's 2 options for what this word could be as a noun, we're going to be making 2 adjectives as well, okay? Now, this one's a little bit harder. Here's why. Let me go back to my bonus word. Remember how we said that bonus is 1, 2. It can have 1 endings, it can have 2 endings. But we have a noun that is third declension. Remember I told you that's fine. We can put the word good with tree. That's exactly what we're doing. Good is a 1, 2. Tree is a 3. It's totally fine. We're allowed to do that. We just need to make sure that GNC is the same. So here's what this means now. We are not going to be in a situation where the endings are going to match because bonus, we can only put 1, 2 endings on bonus. But tree is 3. So now we really have to look at gender, okay? So we said arboreus is feminine. If you look at bonus, which ending matches up with the feminine? Is it the 1 or the 2? Because remember, our word's feminine, so we need to focus on the feminine. Which ending, 1 or 2, is going to go with the feminine? The answer should be, you should be thinking the 1. The 1 endings are the ones that go with feminine words. So now that I know I have a 1, 2 adjective, but I want to specifically focus on the first declension endings because that's the feminine. And we have a word here that is feminine. We need to focus on feminine, and we need to think about our charts, and this is where you might want to pull out your the adjective notes that have an example of a 1, 2 adjective. So if you're looking at your notes, and we want to be looking at the 1, 2 adjective notes, we need a 1, 2 adjective that is nominative. Okay, well, I'm looking at the nominative, plural, and feminine. And feminine means it's going to be 1 endings. So we're looking at our adjective notes. We're looking at the chart that is filled out with an example. We need a feminine nominative plural ending from the 1, 2 charts. You should end up with boni, which is a word that is up here in the box. Because AE is the feminine nominative plural ending in first declension. And remember, our adjective needs to have a first declension ending because at the very beginning, we decided our adjective is a 1, 2. But 2 deals with masculine and neuter. We don't care about masculine and neuter right now because our noun is feminine. So we want to focus on the first endings. Now we need to look for the other option because when we did the case and number for the noun, we came up with 2 options, so we need to come up with 2 options for the adjective. We're going to stay in that first declension. We're going to take the accusative plural feminine, and you should end up with bonas, which is also should be up here in our box. It was one of our options. The as comes from first declension, accusative, plural, and feminine. Remember, it's a first declension because our adjective is a 1, 2, so we need to put 1, 2 endings on it, but we're focusing on the 1 because one deals with feminine and our noun is feminine. Remember that we're always working on matching G and C. We are not working on matching specific letters. G and C does not say that letters need to be the same. G and C says that the gender has to be the same. Boni is the same gender as feminine. Bonos is the same gender as feminine. Number. Boni is nominative plural. Bonos is accusative plural. And then case was just lumped in with what I said. So if you had a sentence that wanted to say good trees, you would see boni arbores or bonos arbores, depending on if it's the subject or the accusative. Boni and arbores do not have the same endings on the end. Bonos and arbores do not have the same ending on the end. But boni and arbores have the same GNC. Bonos and arbores have the same GNC. So here's the point. Sometimes you're going to have a situation like number 1 where your endings match up. Sometimes you're going to have a situation like number 2 where they don't match up. It's all about knowing what you're dealing with initially with the adjective, which is why figuring out declensions of adjectives is so important. And then comparing that to your declension number of your noun. So even though declension number, it doesn't say declension number on GNC, we do need to know it because that's going to tell us, are they going to match like number 1 or are they going to be different like number 2? Obviously number 2 took a little bit more effort and a little bit more thinking, but that's just because our declension numbers are different. You can put any adjective with any noun, regardless of if there's differences in declension, as long as we are cognizant of gender, number, and case.